Today, we're unpacking something truly unsettling. An entity that totally ignores borders, doesn't belong to any single culture, and honestly, can find you absolutely anywhere. We're talking about an impossibly tall, featureless silhouette, complete darkness, but adorned with one strangely human detail: a wide-brimmed hat. Known everywhere as the Hatman, this phenomenon is a shared, cross-cultural terror that just brings this heavy, all-consuming dread. But look, today we aren't just swapping ghost stories. We are going to dive straight into the hard science and the psychology behind a literal global nightmare and see exactly what we uncover.
Think about that for a second. It's a pretty chilling thought, right? We are so used to imagining threats as these external forces. Things hiding out in the woods or lurking outside the window. But what if the source of your absolute deepest terror is actually just waiting for you at your lowest, most vulnerable moment, locked right inside your own head? Well, that happens to be the accepted scientific reality behind the Hatman, and honestly what makes it so incredibly unsettling is that it is entirely out of our control.
Section 1. A Global Historical Nightmare. Tracing the Hatman across cultures.
Okay, so to really grasp the science here, we first have to understand the sheer scope of this thing. Because the Hatman, he's not just some modern internet creepypasta cooked up on a late-night forum. Not at all. All throughout recorded history, totally disconnected societies have documented this exact same presence. In Islamic traditions, this entity is often described as a form of a jinn. If we jump over to Japanese folklore, we find the kanachi. Bringing this paralyzing state, people describe it like being trapped in metal, while some unknown force just watches you. Over in Korea, the figure bears a striking resemblance to the Chosa-son saja, complete with the traditional wide-brimmed Korean hat, the got. And numerous indigenous cultures have spoken for generations about night visitors appearing during illnesses or right in that weird space between waking and sleeping. So yeah, this is a timeless, worldwide phenomenon.
But when does he actually strike? Well, the vast majority of sightings happen deep in the night, right around those classic witching hours. We're talking between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. People report waking up to this incredibly heavy, suffocating air. Their chests literally tighten up, and there, standing in the corner of the room, or even creeping deliberately right toward their bed, is the Hatman. It almost always happens when we are at our absolute most vulnerable.
Section 2. The Science of Sleep Paralysis. Unmasking the Monster.
So how exactly do we explain a universally shared nightmare? Well, we have to pivot away from the paranormal and look straight at the neurobiology. We're talking about a condition known as sleep paralysis. Here's how it works. During REM sleep, your body goes into this natural state of paralysis, right? That's just so you don't dangerously act out your dreams. But every now and then, your brain wakes up prematurely while your body is still entirely locked down. You are literally trapped. And because your brain is still partially running its internal dreaming systems, the boundaries of reality get super blurry. Your evolutionary survival instinct kicks into overdrive, furiously scanning the dark room for danger. And when it finds ambiguous shapes in that low light, your brain projects a terrifying hallucination right on top of them.
At that moment, your brain is essentially screaming, "Hey, there's an intruder there, be careful." It sees, say, a normal coat hanging in the corner of the room, and from a purely evolutionary standpoint, it sounds the alarm to keep you safe. But because you're paralyzed and completely unable to move, this well-meaning neurological defense mechanism just backfires completely. You feel watched, you feel hunted, and you see a monster.
Section 3. When dreams leak into reality. Waking hallucinations.
Now here's where it gets really crazy, because as it turns out, some people actually see the Hatman while they are fully 100% awake. Take a viewer of our source material, an 11-year-old girl named Maria from Scotland. She actually came face to face with this exact, impossibly tall, featureless entity while just walking down a completely normal alleyway looking for her cousin. To understand Maria's waking encounter, we need to quickly look at a couple of clinical definitions. First up is the hypnagogic state. This is that transitional window of consciousness right when you are falling asleep. During times of severe stress, grief, or just intense emotional distress, the brain can effectively glitch, causing the vivid visual imagery of a dream to literally leak out into your waking reality.
And this seamlessly builds into our second definition, the hypnopompic state.
This is just the mirror opposite, the transition leading out of sleep, where you carry the dream's hallucinations forward into your waking consciousness. Scientists strongly suggest that waking encounters with the Hatman, just like Maria's alleyway experience, happen through these exact hypnagogic and hypnopompic intrusions. The brain's normal, healthy boundaries just wash away completely.
And the proof of Maria's shared hallucination is honestly staggering. See, for years, she just told herself that her analytical 11-year-old brain had imagined the whole thing. But years later, as an adult on holiday in a Scottish town called Oban, she was listening to a hotel owner tell a story around a fire. The owner described a moment from her own youth, feeling this terrifying presence while walking past a churchyard. And get this, without ever knowing Maria or her story, the woman described exactly what Maria had seen down to the letter: a shadowy figure, taller than any human, with overly long arms, a blank black circle for a face, and a wide-brimmed hat. No way that's a coincidence, right?
Section 4. Carl Jung and the Shadow. Why a man in a hat?
Which brings us to a massive psychological riddle. Why that specific shape? Why do unconnected people all over the globe who have absolutely never met or heard of each other project the exact same long coat and wide-brimmed hat onto their ambiguous shadows? Well, there are two main camps trying to answer this. On one side, you have the paranormal entity theory. This is the idea that the Hatman is an external demonic force actively feeding off human fear and anxiety. On the other side, we have the psychological explanation, the shadow self. This camp argues that the Hatman is a strictly internal psychological archetype that basically reflects our deeply suppressed emotions. And to really unpack this, we have to look at the legendary Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung.
Jung developed a mind-blowing concept called the collective unconscious. This is the theory that deep beneath our personal, everyday memories, all human beings across the globe share a foundational layer of the unconscious mind. Think of it like a shared psychological hard drive. This layer contains universal symbols, images, and ideas, which he called archetypes, that appear independently in our myths, our dreams, and yes, our deepest fears. This elegantly explains how an 11-year-old girl in Scotland and an adult thousands of miles away can effortlessly hallucinate the exact same specific, distorted details without ever having spoken a single word to each other.
And this brings us right to one of Jung's most famous archetypes, the shadow. The shadow represents all the darker parts of our humanity that we try to hide away. We're talking our fear, our trauma, our guilt, and our jealousy. During times of intense anxiety, like Maria feeling deeply jealous and upset about our cousin that day, this shadow simply spills out. The Hatman's completely blank, featureless face, it's actually no accident at all. It acts as the absolute perfect, terrifyingly blank canvas for the human brain to project its deepest, darkest insecurities right onto.
Section 5, Facing Your Inner Demon, the Resolution.
So, whether the Hatman finds you pinned to your mattress at 3 a.m. or standing at the end of a dark, foggy alleyway, how do we actually handle him? Let's go back to 11-year-old Maria in Scotland for a second. Terrified as she was, her analytical mind took over. Instead of just turning and running immediately, she took a really bold step forward, right toward the figure. And when she did, the figure smoothly moved back. So, pulling in a deep breath, she took one more decisive step forward, and the Hatman completely vanished, just gone. From a Jungian perspective, that is a profound lesson for us. If the Hatman is truly a manifestation of our own inner shadow, our suppressed grief, jealousy, and fear, then perhaps fighting him or fleeing from him is exactly what gives him his terrifying power. Maybe the ultimate key to surviving the Hatman is to boldly face him, to actually integrate those dark emotions and make peace with them as a totally normal, necessary part of the human experience. It's a genuinely fascinating look at the incredible and sometimes truly terrifying power of the human brain. The Hatman shows us, without a doubt, that our internal reality can be far more frightening than any external ghost could ever be. So, knowing what you know now about the rigid science of sleep paralysis and the deep psychology of the collective unconscious, I want to leave you with this final thought. If you woke up at 3 a.m. tonight, unable to move, and saw that wide-brimmed silhouette standing silently in the corner of your room, would you step toward the shadow, or would you just let the darkness stare back?